Hello, hello. Welcome. We'll be talking for a few minutes before we get started. Can't wait to have you join me. Leave me a comment. Let me know where you're joining me from. And we'll get started in just a few minutes. So I had a fun homeschool reminders pop up in my Facebook today. And one of the things we're going to be talking about kind of ended a little bit just 4 years ago. So that was really fun to have that reminder today. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. So, hey guys, I see you're here. Let me know where you're from. And we'll get started right at 7. So drop a comment. Let me know what you're excited to hear about. So today my Facebook memories showed me a picture of my now 11-year-old holding up a workbook that he had finished working on. It was a Star Wars writing book, and that was the first time that we had used their interests to help them learn. And he was super excited to be finishing it, and he did finish it successfully, and it was a way that he actually enjoyed writing because he was writing about what he loved, and he still loves. So, hey Carrie! We're in Illinois too, so we're not far away from you. So that was really fun to see that memory today as we're getting ready to have this workshop tonight. And a lot of fun to be reminded of how long ago or how short ago different things happened and what those things were so that we can keep using them. This year, my son's writing program, he's been able to write about Angry Birds all year long for every single writing assignment. So he's had a lot of fun doing that this year. Star Wars and Angry Birds have been his loves for his entire life. So Carrie's here. Who else is here joining me? Leave me a comment. Let me know we're here. Yes. So, well, we're glad you're here, Carrie. Are you here in Champaign? So, yeah. Ontario, well, Diana, I'm not very close to you in Ontario. Can't say that. Since we're here in Illinois, we're loving we're not loving our Midwest spring as we enjoyed our really warm weather, and now it's not quite so warm, but lots of rain. So, yeah. So, yes, you are down the road then in Marizels. So, yes, well, I'm glad you're all here, and I know we'll have some other people join us. We got about 1 more minute. So we're actually taking spring break this week, so I didn't have to plan for school for this week. I got 1 kid out of town with grandma, and the other 2 are in the other room playing with dad on the Switch for part of their spring break. Turn off my alarms so that I knew I started on time, and we're ready to get started. So I'm so glad you guys are here. West Virginia too. So, well, Diana, I'll let you know Diana from West Virginia, we're going to have the recording up in the group afterwards. So you will be able to catch anything you miss, and I'll be checking in on the comments. So I hope you'll get to stick around the whole time, but if you can't, you'll know that replay will be available so you don't have to miss out on any of it. So we're at 7 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm so glad you're here. So planning is kind of my thing. I'm totally a type A mom. I love a plan. But sadly, as my kids get older, that plan has to look quite a bit different because they kind of have interests and attitudes and preferences that I have to think about too, instead of just doing what I want. But I want you to know that homeschool planning should always reflect your family. And one of the best ways to plan an amazing homeschool for your family is actually to look back at what you've been doing before, whether you've been homeschooling before or not. And that helps you then look ahead and plan for what works. So if you watch to the end of this video, I am going to show you the exact tools that I use to plan and how to get them. So as I said earlier, so my kid realized 4 years ago we were wrapping up my son's Star Wars writing workbook, and that was the first time that we really used his interests in our school because he hated writing, and he was willing to write about Star Wars, so we found a Star Wars writing book. He did the whole thing, and to this day, he doesn't have quite the same aversion to writing he once had, because he can write about the things he wants to write about, and we got over that hurdle by using the things that he loved. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret that while this is year 8 of our homeschool, if you start in kindergarten, longer if you start with preschool, there's some things that we planned to do this year that totally didn't happen. So even as a veteran homeschooler, by some standards, homeschool planning is an imperfect science. I can do a little better job than I used to, but some of it goes by the wayside, and we find some happy surprises along the way. So said a little bit earlier, don't know if I introduced myself, but I'm Cynthia Heron, and so we've been homeschooling for 8 years, starting in kindergarten, and I have 3 kids who are currently in 4th, 7th, and 8th grade. And what makes our homeschool really unique, and what I love talking to other families about, is outside the box kids. And what I mean by that is exactly the kind of kids I have, and that is we have a variety of learning disabilities and other challenges, including ADHD, autism, anxiety, dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, giftedness, all across our kids, which makes a traditional classroom a bit of a challenge. And it also makes homeschooling a bit of a challenge, because those nice, pretty, all-in-one homeschool kits don't really work when you have a kid who's not so typical and doesn't fit in the box either. So our homeschool looks different as a result of all of those things. And the more that our family has chosen to embrace all of those out-of-the-box things, the more fun homeschooling gets, and the less stressed out I get as a mom when we just lean in to doing what works, even when it looks less and less like a traditional class or like school at home. We still have a whiteboard behind me. We still have desks in our schoolroom. But a lot of our learning doesn't happen with either one of those things. And I'm excited to share some of that today. So it took us several years to find out how to work and how to plan. But I do have a plan that I'm going to share with you, and how you can hopefully find your groove as a homeschooler a whole lot faster than 8 years. So stay with me. Hey, Nicole, welcome. Los Angeles. I would love some of that sunshine here in the Midwest. We've had quite some rainy days this week. So the first thing I always do is I look back at what we did last year. So I made some notes, and I started looking at this week, and actually I totally forgot about some of the things that I said we were going to do this year, which means those things totally didn't happen. But planning your homeschool must include your unique family. So if you have outside the box kids, your homeschooling needs to look like your outside the box kids and take those things into account. So if you have a parent that works a job that's on an unusual schedule, not an 8 to 5, then your homeschool is going to reflect that. So I'm glad you're here, Diana, if this is what you need. So it's going to look like your family. So if you need to school on the weekends, because that's when you have the most time, do it. If you need to school at the evenings because your parents you're working in the morning, do it. Your homeschool is going to look like you. So if you're doing it with your kids jumping on the trampoline, do it. It's going to look like your homeschool. So I may throw out curriculum names, but the right curriculum is the one that fits your family. It's not necessarily for you. It's not going to be what fits me. It's going to be what fits your kids. So, and I've got some fun stories to tell you about that. So the first secret to planning your homeschool is it's not going to look like everybody else. It's going to look like your family. So this starts by thinking about why you're homeschooling. For us, we homeschool because our kids learn differently. That's the number one reason that we homeschool in our house. We are Christians, and sometimes you'll see me writing about that, but that's completely secondary. It's an extra little bonus that we can use Bible or talk about what we heard on Sunday at church in what we're learning. But first and foremost, it's because my kids would not be the same kids if they were in a traditional school, because they would lose their shining light that all of them have. They would not be strong mental health if they were in a traditional school. And so that's what our homeschool looks like. We lean into those quirks and those differences in what our school looks like. Depending what your kids' strengths and weaknesses are, those should be reflected in what you're doing. If your kids love to write, write a lot of stories. If your kids hate to write, then there's other ways you can include writing in kind of sneaky ways. Same with math or science. Those things are all going to be balanced out by the kind of parent you are and what kind of teacher you want to be, and the characteristics and interests of your own kids. So that's the first thing, is to think about what fits your family, not what another homeschooler tells you works for them. So in my planning program, that's the first thing that you do, is you look at what your whys, but also your kids. So as I was mentioned as we were getting started, this year, my 11-year-old has spent every single writing assignment writing about Angry Birds. So that's his middle school writing program. It allows him to write about Angry Birds for every single paper and writing assignment he's had this year. And that means he loves his writing assignments. And he's one of my kids with dysgraphia, which means he has a learning disability in the area of writing and handwriting. Holding a pencil, getting his thoughts onto paper is a challenge. But he has not complained about his writing assignments because he gets to write about Angry Birds. So using those interests make those challenging areas so much better. And finding ways that we can include that makes our lives as teachers a whole lot better. That being said, I will tell you why I also have a family rule that says never say never when it comes to curriculum. We had a math curriculum that we used for kindergarten, and it was Math UC, and it was their primer level, and I didn't get it. I thought it would be amazing reading about it, and we tried it, and I was like, I do not get this. This is horrible. It'll never work for my kids. I sold it. We got rid of it. I used something different for the next kid. Well, fast forward 4 years, and I discovered that same kid that we didn't really like primer for. And their primer level is different than the rest of their levels. So I'll give you that disclaimer when it comes to Math UC. Fast forward a few years, and I'm teaching the same child multiplication for the third time. And we realized that actually the Math UC philosophy of each level dives really deep into one operation was actually exactly the right fit. So those blocks that I had sold 4 years before, I had to go buy them again. And that same child will not use any other math curriculum, except she will only use Math UC because it's unlocked math for her. Forgetting the other 3 or 4 that we've tried that she didn't have success with. So I had to go back and eat my words to say, we're never using that in our house. And as of this year, one of her brothers also went back to Math UC for a similar reason, that he needed a different fit. And so we tried it. After I said, we're never using that, it's totally what we're swearing by now. And the same thing, Math UC also has a spelling program called Spelling UC, and a friend of mine explained it to me when it first came out. And I said, I don't get it. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't see why that would fit my kid. I learned about it again at a recent convention last year and this year. And when I learned about it then, it was the right fit for my other child, for my dyslexic child. And he has loved using Spelling UC this year. And it's been the right thing for him and how he needed to learn spelling. Because you learn it in context. There's no spelling lists or anything. You're looking at things within a passage. And it's really helped him learn all the exceptions to the rules. So I said we never use it, and it was totally the right thing this year. So your homeschool is always going to look just like your homeschool. It's going to be uniquely you and unique to your kids at this unique time. So my second secret to planning your homeschool is that learning really does happen even without lesson plans. So if you're a type A like me and you want it all on paper, you make sure you leave some space in your day and on your schedule for the fun field trips and the park dates and the diving into a book that you didn't expect to read, because that's also when learning happens. It doesn't have to happen just because you wrote it on the spreadsheet or the lessons plan. This year, a couple things that we did differently is we went on a road trip for 2 weeks and we went to 6 national parks, and that was how we learned. The kids had a binder with some math review sheets, some journal writing to record the trip from their point of view, and a novel that I gave them a chapter a day to read when we were in the car, because 40 hours in the car over 2 weeks is a lot of time in the car and they needed something to do. But the rest of the time we were learning by exploring. So we live in the Midwest and we headed out west and we went to Arizona and Utah and visited all kinds of parks. And the kids got to be involved in preparing for the trip as part of their geography this year. And then we came back and they're going to build rock collections with some of the rocks we picked up along the way for the fair and for our geology unit. So it was still learning, just didn't look quite like the learning we do every other day here in our house when we're staying home. We also learned to wash dishes together and everything else as we lived in our camper for those 2 weeks. We also saw some things that didn't happen on our school schedule. I had planned to do 4 specific science units, but then we got the chance to review some computer science and computer coding programs, and that lit a fire in the kids. And so they did that for a semester, and now I'm coaching a robotics team that competes in a couple weeks, again, because the opportunity came and we took it, and we let that take priority over what we had written on paper. So the botany and the energy that we had planned to do this year, we're just going to do it next year. And that's okay. So, Nicole, I would love to hear how your son helps you plan your road trips. We actually had the kids help plan by making them, it was kind of sneaky and it was cheating on my part, but I made them write, I called it a 3-2-1 report. So it's on the blog if you want to go read it. But they had to write 3 things that made the park unique, 2 animals or plants they would see there, and 1 thing they wanted to do when we went there. And I just sent them to each of the official website for each national park. I sent them each an email with the links, and then they checked out the links and filled out their page. And then each child's 1 thing that they wanted to do in that park became what our itinerary was. We didn't try to do it all. We just tried to do what they wanted to do, which meant I didn't have to do the research because they did it for me. And then the really fun part was when we got home, and now that everything's thawing out and we're getting ready to go camping some more, they've already asked if they can do the same thing for our next trip. Even at the local parks, they want to look at the map before we go and each pick a trail to hike, and that becomes what we do. So I didn't know I was setting a new family habit, but it's kind of nice because it's a weight off my shoulders and a sneaky way to delegate the work. And they're more invested, so they have more fun. My third secret to planning your homeschool is to get buy-in from your kids. So number 3 is to get buy-in. You're homeschooling, so nobody's telling you what you have to teach them or how you have to teach it. So include your kids in the planning. Find out what they want to do by talking to them if they're old enough. Or if they're younger, sit back and observe what they like to do. Do they like to sit and color at the table? So they might like worksheets. Or would they rather be out in the backyard getting muddy and prefer some hands-on activities? So one of the things to do, ooh, that sounds great, Nicole. Getting to use the maps as well as picking out things to do. That's perfect. And they get so much more excited when they know what's going on the trip, and to know and to do the things they want. We did a 2-mile hike, and my son said he only wanted to ever do 1-mile hike, so we didn't tell him how long it was till it was over. And then we told him, hey, you did a 2-mile hike. And he was like, oh, well, that's easy. You know, I can do 2-mile hikes now. So we've stretched what he can do. We're hoping maybe to do a 5-mile this summer. Ooh, packing lists are super important, Nicole. It's my goal to make some to put out for my own kids and to share with you guys on the blog soon. So you want to have buy-in from your kids with whatever you're doing. So I said before, my son's been writing about Angry Birds all year. So for middle school writing, this year we used a program called Cover Story. And they're writing a magazine, and a full-length magazine, and every article that they write is on their theme. So my 7th grader, my oldest, is writing everything about Harry Potter, and my 11-year-old is writing everything about Angry Birds. So it's been a lot of fun for them to have their interests all year. And the very first assignments talked about what is a good topic and how to make it narrow but broad enough to have enough to write about for the whole year. But it's made it a lot of fun for them to have their interests in what they're writing. So, and having your kids, you have to hang out with them all day, and they kind of have cool ideas sometimes. So it's great when they can see those activities fit for the whole family. My 9-year-old last year Dad and him started making a little game with their pattern blocks. Have you guys used pattern blocks? Who knows what they are? Little shapes, wooden shapes, triangles, hexagons, diamonds, trapezoids. They're great for early elementary science or really anything. We use them a lot for fidgets. But he ended up making a board game or card game. You play it on the tabletop, but there's a deck of cards. There's not really a board to it. And this weekend, we will find out if the game won any awards. We actually tested it and put it in a competition. There's a PDF version available on the website for Shape Farm that you can pick up and check out if you want. Or maybe you already have a copy if you've checked it out before. I had our original version for free for a while, and then we got the final one up. And it is a few dollars, but he's really excited to see if it sells, and he's really excited to see if he wins any awards. But it's been a really fun family project to learn about marketing and engagement and testing and collaboration as a family, because we'd go to a test event and other people would play the game and we'd get their feedback and we'd come home and we'd have a family meeting and be like, so do we like this change? Should we change it this way? What do we think about this? And it was a lot of fun to collaborate about his idea. So that was a lot of fun. I'll be writing more about that once we hear what awards we won this weekend at the grand exhibition. So he's really excited, but it's an extra learning thing we did this year. So those are my 3 tips for the year. And like I said, there's things that we didn't get done that were on our schedule. As I looked back at the blog post that I shared with you guys at the beginning of the year saying, hey, this is what we're going to do this year. One of the things I said, we were going to be part of the Learners Lab for emotional learning. And I said we were going to go volunteer every month. Well, we didn't go volunteer every month. And I totally forgot that we had committed to do that. So there's still a few months, maybe this summer, I'll get to put that on our schedule and be able to do that. Because that's something that would still be a lot of fun to do as a family, but time got away from us, so we never did it. So I have a question. Do you want to know about how you guys can get my planning system? And I've got some special opportunities to actually help you plan and some group planning session. Who wants to know about it? Let me know. So do you guys want to know more about the way that we plan and the worksheets I use? Because I've got them available on the site, and I'll tell you when you're ready to learn about them. Oh, good, Carrie. I'm glad you guys want to learn. So I developed the out-of-the-box planning course because, like I said before, you can't use an all-in-one curriculum when you have outside-the-box kids. That just doesn't work, because if the curriculum's in the box and the kids are outside the box, it's just not going to fit. So this planning course has 7 actionable lessons, and these little lessons are exactly what I do every year. I've printed out my own set of the pages, and I'm starting to go through them now for my own kids. So I write down, it starts with reminding myself, what is my why? And sometimes why am I homeschooling? It changes. It was different when I was when I had kindergarteners than what I have now with 2 middle schoolers as we look to high school and even beyond. So I write down, what is my why for homeschooling this year? And what do I want to focus on? And then I start to look at what are my kids and what are their strengths and weaknesses? And I fill out these worksheets. And so I have that because your homeschool is going to be uniquely you. And it should be. If it's going to be successful, it's going to be personalized to your family. And that's the beauty of homeschooling, is that it is a perfect fit because it's you. You're doing it. You're not trying to fit into anybody else's. It gets to be what your family wants it to be. And all of that love and relationships that is in your family gets to be a part of your homeschool. So each lesson, each of these 7 lessons is going to break it down. It's only a 10-minute video. And each one then will help you work towards building your homeschool plan. So the planning course will help you if you're a first-year homeschool, or it will help you as a returning homeschool. And it's going to help you with any age student because it's that flexible to help you plan what comes next for the next year for each one of your kids. So we have 7 actionable lessons and homeschool course. So the videos is about a $35 value. And then you're going to get a 100-page workbook. I didn't even know I could make that many homeschool worksheets for you. But it gets that big because every worksheet that I give you, I make it fully customizable. So I've got pages for planning with 1 child, 2 child, 3 children, so that you have all the options that you need no matter what your family looks like. I've got an attendance page, and you can choose to start it in August or January or July or a blank one to start any month of the year. So all of those options are on there. I've got different subject layouts. All of those things are there. Each lesson will give you a little bite-sized thing, and it'll say, okay, here's your pages. Now, depending on what your family looks like, in the packet, you're going to want to print this part of it to do this week's homework. And then at the end of the course, you can download it as one file to make it really easy to save instead of having a whole bunch of files everywhere. So you're going to come with all those variations and all of that help. So we're going to have the 7 actionable lessons. We're going to have the 100-page workbook. And then what I'm really, really, really excited about doing, and that's the regular course for those 2 things. And then this month, because April, May is when people start to plan a little bit for next year. We're starting to wrap up this year. It's fun to think about. The catalogs just came out. I just got one today. We're going to have 3 live sessions. So the next 3 Wednesday afternoons, we're going to open a Zoom room, and we're all going to get together. I'll talk a little bit about the different parts of the lessons, and then we're going to talk about what each of that looks like in each of your homeschools. So if you need help figuring out how to include Minecraft in your homeschool, or Legos, or whatever your kid's interested so that you can include their interest in your learning, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to brainstorm all of those answers. So when I do coaching calls, it's $30 for an hour to talk through your homeschool together. But this time we're going to do it 3 times as a group. So there's $90 there. So we have our planning course for $35, the 100-page workbook for $20. So it's $145, but you get it for $19. And you get all those lessons. So, and anybody who's ever signed up for the planning course is also going to join us. And we're going to talk through the planning course. So I'm super excited. I haven't done a lot of planning either. So I'm going to go through and plan with you guys too. So here's the link to sign up for the planning course and use the same pages. I started making these pages for me to use for myself, and so I added them and started putting them together and making all the options so that you guys can use them too, because it's totally worth it. I love planning this way. I've just shared it with a lot of friends and they love it too. But we're going to meet on Wednesday afternoons for the next 3 weeks to talk through the plan and to help plan. So next week, we will talk about why we're homeschooling and what makes each of our kids unique and how we can include those strengths and weaknesses and interests in our homeschool, and even toss around some different curriculum options that fit different strengths and weaknesses. And the second week, we're going to look at the big picture of homeschooling, taking what we want to study and putting it into a plan and filling in the different subject areas, again, with those strengths, weaknesses, teaching styles, all in mind. And then the final week, we're going to actually make it down into manageable chunks. So either some kind of term. So you can decide if you plan by quarters or 6 weeks, by the month, and break it down into that. So that when you actually go plan the daily details, you have a smaller chunk to think about and can plan those individually. So that's what I have for you guys. I'm kind of a planning junkie. I have a big binder. I love crossing everything off. We've got our weekly spreadsheet for our family. But the more I homeschool, the more I also like to leave room for all the everyday learning and the real life learning. So I want to encourage you guys to do the same. And if you guys have any questions, I'm going to hang around for a little while. Let me know if you're interested, what questions you have about joining the course and the planning sessions next week, or any other planning questions that you have. Let me know in the comments. So this planning course is lifetime access that you'll have to the courses and the 7 pre-recorded lessons. And then this week starting next week, we'll have the live sessions together to talk through and meet and discuss and hang out together. And who knows, probably in the future I'll do some other live sessions for anybody in the course, because it is more fun to plan together, and sometimes I learn from you as well, new ideas and things to try, or things that you've tried that might work for me. So I'm really excited to get together with you and get to brainstorm and hive mind the things so we can all have really exciting and out-of-the-box homeschools for next year. So, yeah, let me know if you have questions, but that is the end. I'm here for questions, and I will be sending it out, the video links to join the calls over the weekend. So anybody who signs up for the course this week will get to join us for those group planning sessions. So it's a lot of fun. I like to go hang out with my friends at the coffee shop and trade planning strategies. And did this book work for you? Okay, I'll try it next. Actually, my friend just did that with the spelling. I was telling them about spelling UC and how it worked for my kid when I so didn't expect it to. And they tried it and just told me this week that they were so excited. Their kid was on the 4th week, and it was already making a big difference for both their handwriting and their spelling. So that was really exciting to get to trade that. So, Carrie, you're signing up now. Oh, I'm so excited for you to join me next week. So, planning for a 3-year-old with lots of energy. Oh, I get that. And a 5-year-old with Down syndrome who wants to watch videos all day. So, well, I will tell you, a 5-year-old, we loved at that age. We did reading, writing, math, and I will say they learned everything else from PBS Kids. So we use lots of video in our learning, and I will even say that it's still kind of funny. My kids still remember what they learned from PBS Kids. And so we have to find science programs that go deeper because they've already learned it from Sid the Science Kid and Dinosaur Train, and Wild Kratts is the one they really, really liked. So it was always really fun that they were into those things, and how much they retained at that age, that still comes into what we're learning today. How much they love birds and everything else comes from those things. So you can work smarter, not harder. It's not bad to watch videos all day. And now they watch quite a few on their own too. We're actually doing a video science class right now. So they go to watch a live YouTuber twice a week. And then we do science experiments as well. So, videos are a great way to learn. And while they're watching videos, you can keep the 3-year-old moving around. So I'm excited to have you join me next week, Harry. Okay, so who else is still here? What questions can I answer for you? Yes, so Yes, we had 4 science units planned this year, and we did lots of extra computer science in the fall. And then this spring, because I made the mistake of trying to teach every subject myself this year to 3 kids. So that's a lot of subjects when it's everything times 3. For the spring semester, we decided to outsource our science, and we found an awesome online science class from Science Mom. She was teaching a biology genetics class for the semester for middle schoolers. So they've all been going to that twice a week, which I love the peace and quiet that gives me while they're in class. So the live sessions, Diana, the live sessions will be at 2 o'clock Central Time. So that's 3 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Mountain, and noon Pacific, I believe, on Wednesday. I believe it's Wednesday. I wrote it down, and then I forgot to write it down in a place to read to you guys. How silly is that? So, yes, we'll be doing 2 o'clock on Wednesday. So, yeah, 2 o'clock Central, I should say. I will type that in the chat. So if you're in a different time zone, that will look a little bit different. So, and that will be for the next 3 weeks of April. So I'll be sending out, anybody who signed up for the planning course they'll get an email, and it will have our meetup link as well as the times and details to be able to add it to your Google Calendar. So I can't wait to hang out with you. And if you can't make the sessions, you're still going to get the workshops. You're going to get the live class, or you're going to get the 7 lessons and the workbook. So if you can only make it to one session, that's okay too. We'll be glad to have you as much as you can be there. And if you can't come, the recorded sessions are going to be there with the same content. So you'll be able to catch up and meet up with where the rest of the group is as we go through the material. Great question, Diana. So, yes. So, well, I'm so glad you guys joined me tonight. Planning is a lot of fun and is totally overwhelming, which, as there's so many options, as you hit different ages and stages and hear about different things. There's just so many great options from so many creators as well as larger curriculum companies. To find what fits your family, to know what's out there. So I'm excited to go through it all with all of you starting next week, and find the perfect fit homeschool for each of you. So, and I know Sarah couldn't make it today, and I think she wanted to join us too. So we look forward to having quite a group next week. And I look forward to continuing to work with you and encourage you here in the Outside the Box community. So thanks for joining us, and you have through the weekend to sign up for the planning course, to join us for the live meetups as we work through the planning course together over Zoom. So I'm Cynthia Heron with Inside Our Normal. Thanks for joining us.